Welcome to the Athlete Brand Advisor Podcast, featuring interviews and news about NIL. We also have special episodes to talk about recent news, events, and anything in the world of sports. The podcast is brought to you by Pliable, a full-service marketing company, an NIL agency that educates and empowers athletes to build their athlete brand. Now, here's your host, Greg Glynn.
Thanks, and welcome to the Athlete Brand Advisor Podcast. In this episode, we're talking about what it means to be a community ambassador. And I am joined today by Crystal Brown, a good friend of mine who helped me start the Community Ambassador program that many Pliable athletes are a part of. She is the Community Marketing Manager for Aroma Joe's Development Office, and she is fantastic. She has a great marketing background working in the food and beverage industry. She understands people, she understands community, and she engages with many different audiences and also organizations like the Make-A-Wish organization, also the Travis Mills Foundation, and Aroma Joe's has really done an amazing job to build their brand around community and positivity to positively impact people. And that's why we are so excited to talk to Crystal today. Welcome into the podcast, Crystal.
Wow, thank you. I love that intro, Greg. That was awesome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. This has been a long time coming. We obviously have been working together going back even to 2022. It's amazing how time flies when you're having fun. And as a result of that, it was Alyssa Bourque who started this whole thing. And I tell this story so, people know if they've learned about the Community Ambassador Program, how this all happened. Alyssa Bourque, the first college athlete who was a Pliable athlete, sat across from me at a table at her kitchen table, and I said, as part of this profile we're going to do, I need to know what are your favorite brands. And I said, think of it like this. What would be your dream NIL deal? And she goes to me without even flinching, I would do anything for Aroma Joe's. And I was like, okay. I was like, game on. That's a big one to start. So let's start figuring it out. And eventually you and I would connect. We would start to talk about the NIL space, talk about the growth of Aroma Joe's. And Crystal, what was appealing initially to you about NIL and working with college athletes?
Kind of a backstory is I'm an athlete myself. So I track runner, right? Soccer, very type A, very athletic driven. But to kind of go back to the NIL space point is I wasn't able to work a lot. Do you know what I mean? And make money and put 150% effort into my athletics. So this kind of allows individuals, right, that are superstars and they're A plus athletes to get compensated a little bit, but also we want them to elevate their community space, build leadership skills. So it's really evolved over time, but I'm an athlete, tried and true, so that's kind of how it started for me, so I could tap into that.
Yeah, well, I think that's something we also share is the fact that we are former athletes. We understand their schedules, we understand their lifestyle, we understand their passions. We also understand that there's life after sports. And that's one of the things I think this also, as you mentioned, I like to say there are life skills involved in this program because what's typically happening right now in the NIL industry is there are brands, whether they're small, medium, or large, that have brand ambassador programs where you can hold up a drink, you can hold up a protein bar, you can promote a car dealership, whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, this is actually about building community. So why don't you explain, Crystal, how this kind of came to be and why it fits the Aroma Joe's brand so well about being involved in your community?
Thank you for that, because I think it starts with our story. Greg and I, it's taken a few years for us to really get this program where we want it today, right? So, and how that came about was Aroma Joe's. It's a coffee brand. People are kind of like not understanding the connection. Do you know what I mean? We're a coffee brand, positively impacting people is our mission, caring, commitment to excellence. Those are kind of like our pillars. And how would the NIL space fit with Aroma Joe's? right? How does that work? And then, hello, community marketing manager. So all those
Yeah.
like trifectas, how does this play? So going back to the athletics mindset of my brain, the coffee space and connecting the two it was a no-brainer to me. Community. We as our franchisees, as owners, as working at the Aroma Joe's brand, love our communities. Our franchisees are in the stores day after day working really hard. So we wanted to think outside the box a little bit. And yes, we want to promote our brand. Yes. We want to promote our drinks. Yes. But we also want to promote community. Let people know that these owners of these stores are out in the cusp of the community and doing free drinks and doing coffee setups and doing rush bars and also donating money to various athletic teams and bringing people that have worked for the very first time, a lot of them, some of our ambassadors as a job, training them to be community leaders. So what Greg and I have done over time is we've evolved kind of in that space and then taken it to the next level. Let's work on our leadership skills. Let's work on our community skills. Let's build that community around us. So after the athletic world, right, after we're kind of done with that piece, we've really built that large community connectivity and network around us, our little bubble that can help support us in other things that the ambassadors want to do in the future.
Yeah, and I think it's so cool because they get an opportunity to choose what they're passionate about, which is a big part of obviously what I do with Pliable is to find, as I say, the way I recruit, I'm looking for good athletes that are great people. And it's really meshed very well because we've been able to identify amazing people because you don't have to go through the vetting process because I know what would happen if you had to go through the vetting process and said, hey, who wants to work with Aroma Joe's? You'd have everybody lining up at your door. But the idea is that this is so different and it allows athletes, whether it's mental health, whether it's the environment, sustainability, whether it's curing cancer, whether it's food insecurity. There are so many things that athletes are passionate about, and this allows them a way through connecting with their community, whether it is raising awareness by just even having drink cards available for anybody who donates to whatever organization they're trying to, help. It has been such an amazing way for athletes to also be involved in their community. And the reason is because you are so involved in the community as Aroma Joe's. Now the athlete doesn't have to come up with community events and set up their whole event. Literally, they get to piggyback on the work that Aroma Joe's has done, and they get to show up and have the fun.
Yeah, it was hard for us, wasn't it, Greg? In the beginning, we were struggling a little bit, trying to think of where could the athletes fit. But over time, as things evolve, right? You take your time to make sure that things are done correctly. It has evolved to that space where, throughout the year, there's certain events that they participate in or can go to. We have an experiential van, right? We've had opportunities there. We've had sports card shows, things like that we've had the athletes come to and represent the brand, but also themselves at the table and promoting and themselves. And that's a hard thing to sometimes, it's hard for kiddos today, right? To be front facing, to make eye connection, to be a leader, to speak in front of a room of 150 people. But we've kind of had these opportunities for them, presented it to them. And yes or, it's a yes or no. Most of them, yes, they've all said yes, which I love. And what we've created, Greg, is something that other organizations, I think, are going to eventually click, the light bulb will click on in their head. It's a big deal. We're building future leaders that hopefully will take care of us someday. That's the hope. Remember Crystal from Aroma Joe?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think it's so true. And the other thing, too, is I do think that this generation that is coming up now is looking for ways to give back in a different way than, the last generation may have kind of passed them by, I guess I might want to say. But I feel like we are going to start to see a resurgence in how can I help my community? How can I give back? What can I do to be a better person that can help the overall world or community, even just around me. And that's what this program really allows them to do. So just so people know, this is everything from promoting the events that are coming up in the community that Aroma Joe's has, whether it's their local, franchise that's hosting an event, whether it's Aroma Joe's in general with the, Travis Mills plane pull or Make-A-Wish and some of the cool things you guys do where, for a period of time, you'll donate $1 back, to an organization. And that way the athletes who have these large followings, they're able to get that word out there so you can hit the people in that community. Because I've always said this, a brand that is local would actually rather work with an athlete who has 2,000 followers, let's say, but they're all literally from that area or that hometown. Versus if you go and you have 100,000 followers and you're some big superstar athlete, what are the chances that those core people or the majority of those people are actually going to be able to do anything about that Aroma Joe's post or that fundraiser that they could go to? In this situation, these athletes have that ability to influence and reach the target audience.
I love that you said that too, because I think too, a lot of kiddos get passed by because they might have 200 followers, whatever, right? I don't necessarily look at it in that sense. I look at the person as a whole, and that's what we're doing, right? They're good people. They care about their community. Maybe 10 years from now, they have 50,000, whatever. I think it's good to just focus on the individual. And I kind of going back to what you just said a second ago too about community, and now with the mental health, going in this world today with social media and things like that. This has also brought back like cheerleaders in there behind them, right? That we support them, we care about them, and there's a cause for them to feel like they're doing something impactful and beautiful in the world. That is a big deal and can go on from now and carry on with them for the rest of their lives, knowing that they're making that connection to community. That's really what our brand is as well. They call it Cup, the connection to the community, right? And we're passing out that coffee. We're trying to talk to the ambassadors about that too. We've had them in stores, right, Greg?
Yeah,
where
absolutely.
They've passed out that cup and maybe they've done a promo or two, but they're seeing that engagement with the customers and how we have that one-on-one interaction. And it's coming full circle to them. Like, wow, they know me, or, I'm in this community local and now I'm passing out this cup of coffee and they know that I'm in, track or whatever, soccer. And they're going to now maybe they like me on Instagram, whatever, that kind of thing. But I just see it as a whole evolution of a lot of things that we're doing for people, and want it to be impactful, that it carries on forever. Really, I want to last forever, Greg. I'm going to be here forever.
Well, I certainly agree with you, because when we do community events, and I've had this happen a few different times, is an athlete is sitting at a table, or a family member comes up, but whether it's a young athlete, and says, "I already follow you on Instagram." That's a really cool moment for that athlete to realize they are valued, and they don't sometimes get that. How different is it, right? You might have 4,000 followers, but when you actually hear that someone completely random is actually following you because they've seen what you're doing and the impact that you're making, those are the moments that give me the chills. Those are the moments where, I would love to go do community events every day of the week if I could, because
that's why I love my job.
Yeah. It just feels so good. It's like, that feeling of giving is better than receiving. That is what this is all about. And then the opportunities that come from it are just exponential. And the other thing that I think this also does, it teaches another valuable life lesson related to their social media. Because what we're telling them is, you need to have a clean social media account. Your stuff has to be rated G. If you're going to be a role model, right, Crystal, you cannot have crazy stuff on your social media.
Right. Yeah. You have to think about, actually, it's a good conversation you're having right now, because my daughter is in a sorority. Okay. So a lot of times things are Pictures are a little different, we'll just be honest. And she has really impressed me, honestly, and some of the kiddos that I'm working with. This is completely off the subject, but in regards to understanding that social media piece, right? The pictures that we're putting out into the universe, the way we're putting our front face out there that people are seeing, that you might take it down. It might have been up there for 5 seconds, but it's out there, right, guys, in the universe. How do we want people to really see us internally? Really internally, like we are great people. All of us are. We have wonderful things that we can do. We're all special in some way. And we need to understand that what we're putting out there could be there 5, 10, 15 years from now. Who do we truly want to be? Who are we? That is what I think we're doing right now, is working with the NIL space and the athletes. Who are we? These kids are really figuring out, who am I?
Yeah.
Who do I want to be? Who do I want to be someday? Yeah, maybe it's not an astronaut or a lawyer or whatever, maybe whatever. But who am I internally? Yeah. And I think that is so important about our brand, because we have a lot of baristas, like I said, that work for us, that go on to be owners, whatever, of stores or managers or on to other jobs. But in that store, in that day, we are making such an impact. These kiddos, even in their social media, you're sending stuff out into the universe that's making an impact to a young kiddo's life, someone's life. Just keep thinking of that. Like, who do we want to be? Who do we truly want people to see us as?
Yeah, and I also think too that content is a reflection of who you are and
Yes.
what you're doing and what you want to do in the future of your career. And it's so important that these athletes know, and I say this all the time, and maybe you can help, Crystal, if we can help one person that may be listening to this and give them perspective, because I tell athletes all the time is if you're trying to attract brands you want to work with, whether it's Aroma Joe's or your other favorite companies that you like, if you have one miscue or even swears in your, music that you've used or something that doesn't look right on your page, for you as the brand, Crystal, it's an easy no, and be like, nope, not going to do it. But the problem is these athletes don't know that there are no's because they never hear from the no's, know. And so if you could explain why it's important to a brand to see positive content, no negative content, no poor gestures, no swears, because at the end of the day, they are going to represent your brand and they are a reflection of you.
Yeah. And with any brand, again, it's forward facing. Yeah, you might do these things in your own personal time, right? Our personal time in the background. That's cool. That's totally cool if that's who you are. But if you're representing a brand like Aroma Joe or other companies, you have to think about it as a whole, like all the people that we're connecting with from age. Our brand in general is like 15 to 35, 40. That 15-year-old that's looking at that content and truly looking up to you in that moment, what do you want them to see? You want them to see you as a leader, respectful, kind, considerate, compassionate, caring about your community. But in general, this is all your whole life, right? We can do the things we want to do in our own home. That's cool. But when you're representing a brand, you have to look at it as you're out there and this brand is trying to elevate, right? Build sales, brand recognition, visibility. It has to be positive content. It really does, because no one wants negativity. Nobody does in their life, no matter what we do. And swears and things like that are definitely not positive. Again, you can do this stuff at home in your own private, whatever. But when you're out in, putting that forward facing, some people feel like they have to post their whole life, right? On social media. No. The world does not need to know there has to be some private still in our lives. Right. And that I find with social media has been lost. I think that it's almost like to feel connected, they feel like we have to share everything. And it's okay to be, hold some stuff internally, so to speak, and not in the outward facing social media.
Yeah. So I wanted to make sure athletes of any age, of any opportunity, whether you're a high school, college, or pro, just hear that and let that settle in, because you might not know the deals you're missing out on because of your content. And I just think that's important. So looking ahead, obviously the NIL space continues to evolve, Crystal. We knew this. I love how we are pioneers in this industry because you really took a chance on NIL from the early years. I mean, we're talking 2022 we started talking, which was basically 6 months after, NIL even came to be with an interim policy and all this other stuff. And now here we are. And as NIL continues to evolve, what do you think are some of the next things that we're going to see as far as, opportunities for more college and high school? I mean, think about the number of high school athletes we've been able to work with. It's so cool because sometimes even the high school athletes still have that connection to their community that is different because they're not away at school, and they can make that dramatic impact. So I know what's happening with NIL. It's going to start to trickle down to high school, and I think that Aroma Joe's is in a perfect, spot to be able to promote community with those, individuals.
Well, I like what you just said about high school level, and sometimes who knows, it's middle school. I don't know.
It's going to start to happen. Don't worry.
What I'm getting at with that is, yes, we have a young demographic for our brand, 100%. Right. But in a different sense of that of thinking is connecting with someone when they're young, right? We're building that leadership skills for them, the personal connections with community. How can I make an impact in this world? And starting a little bit younger is pretty cool. I started years and years ago. I think I told you that, Greg. It was a health promotion program in elementary school level. Because back when my son was in elementary school, believe it or not, it wasn't really, we had PE, did those things, but it wasn't like the next level discussion about nutrition and fitness, that kind of vibe.
Yeah, that was the Healthy Patriots program.
It was the Healthy Patriots program.
Yeah.
We had about 3,000 kids I was working with. And our school took over and got $1 million PEP grant because of that. And it was able to invest in physical equipment to bring into the school. They were not happy with me, FYI, because they can't have cupcakes anymore. But that's beside the point. We won't go there with that conversation. But I think that starting with the younger generation might be pretty cool. Because then we might have that kiddo from middle school, who knows, high school, then they're in college, they're still doing things for us. And the next thing you know, they're running some huge corporation and they're like, you know what, because of Aroma Joe and what Greg and Pliable did for me, this is where I am today. Those stories are pretty cool. And you can pat yourself on the back and be like, this is awesome. But even having said that, sometimes it's okay too. I've taught my daughter a lot of this recently, is you can do a lot of things and be that leader, right? That person doing all these things. You might not necessarily get that pat on the back, but that's okay. Because you did it and it's super cool, and just be happy with checking off a box and some sort of accomplishment. That was a hard lesson recently to teach to some people, that they don't necessarily get the, all the likes and the views and the pats on the back. And that's okay, because you're still doing something pretty cool and that someone else necessarily isn't doing.
Yeah. And then I also go back to, along those same lines, going back to the high school era, is Maddie Niles. I mean, I really have a lot of respect for Maddie Niles, who's a Pliable athlete. She signed on to be a Pliable athlete and have NIL representation before she got her license. And she is an amazing person in her community, loves, obviously, Aroma Joe's, wanted to be a community ambassador. She did this in high school. She continues to do it, and she is gaining so many life skills that are putting her ahead of her competition. And not to mention, was featured in the Wall Street Journal because she was leading the way as a high school athlete, doing something different in the NIL space with this community ambassador program. And she literally became the poster child, for Aroma Joe's and what you can do. And it all started with the belief in herself and the belief from someone like me and someone like you. Maddie, you can do this. You are absolutely a perfect person to do this. And now she's just so successful in so many different ways. So great example. If you have a chance to look up Maddie Niles from Lawrence High School, please do it. Now let's look ahead. We've got opportunities in front of us, Crystal, because this is a one-of-a-kind program.
Yeah.
We've led the way in many different respects, and now you guys have a partnership with the University of Maine, which is
Mm-hmm.
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, there's now currently 5 pliable athletes and growing at the University of Maine. No surprise, thanks to Aroma Joe's, obviously, that Orono location that's in walking distance, which is
Mm-hmm.
which is great. And now we're going to have a chance, in my mind, to be presenting at conferences and trade shows and colleges
Yeah.
about this program because of how different and unique it is. And this, in my mind, is true NIL. This is, not revenue sharing. This is not a collective kind of deal. This is
Right.
really what NIL was supposed to be all about.
Yeah, and that's what I think happens sometimes is that's what people envision. Oh, I'm going to be a millionaire. And yeah, it's cool to make some money. Like we just talked about
Yeah.
earlier with being an athlete. That's cool, literally. But in the scheme of things, okay, say we got the $1 million thing. What happens after that? Like, are we investing some of it back in the community? You know what I mean? Because are we spending it on gold teeth? I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? So I foresee, I'm a little scared to be quite honest, because we could get a lot of people
Yeah. Yeah.
wanting to do it. So like you said, going back to the picking and choosing, we also have to look at us too. We're as a brand, we're Maine, New Hampshire, but we're now in Massachusetts, right? New York,
Yeah.
Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and we're trying to get down to Florida. This NIL is growing in those spaces, which is good for you as well as myself for the brand. Is a big deal. We're trying to keep it, you and I, in a space that we can control, that we can get information out. We've also, you and I have developed policies, kind of like videos that we've done to give to people to understand what a community ambassador is. I love that piece. And then showing like a flyer, like this is if you go to an event. Those things we're developing, right, over time. I would love the opportunity to go to schools, businesses, for them to understand what we're doing, because everything is always about money and revenue. And yes, ultimately, in the end, we want our brand to grow. But what's happening is our brand's growing in people saying, looking at us, more eyeballs seeing us. Next thing you know, more owners want to purchase our stores. And the next thing you know, they're coming to our store and purchasing because of what we're doing in the community and working with NIL. It is happening in that space. But for me, it's just more than that. It's about people.
Yeah.
I want to make an impact as well as you do in people's lives. And I just think it's really important. So I'm excited about our future, Greg.
I am too. And now we've got an application process. We've
Yeah.
got a waiting list. We've got even opportunities for NIL education, which I think for me here at Pliable is such a huge part of this. And it's great because they'll come in because they want to work with Aroma Joe's, but they'll stay because they want to get educated.
Right.
If you're going to do this and if you're going to work with Aroma Joe's as a community ambassador, you are going to need to learn about NIL. You can't just jump into this. You got to know what a dashboard is, how that works, when you make your post, how you make your post, Federal Trade Commission rules, right? Wearing logos and marks. What are you doing? Where are you shooting this? What lighting are you using? All these things that they don't think about sometimes when you just see people put together stuff on the internet. You're seeing the other side of the camera. You're not seeing. Think about what's behind that to make all that content come together, the planning that has to go into it. It's just fascinating. I'm so excited for what is next. And as you and I know, because of the type of people we are, we don't even know what's next, but we know it's going to be good. It's going to be good.
Slow down. I swear to God, every single person I talk to now is like, I have a lot of energy and I've never changed. Do you know what I'm saying? I have literally been the same person since I was a kid. I just enjoy being out in the connecting with, long story short, I used to do singing in a band kind of thing. Okay. That's a story about myself, to get myself out there and be front facing. That's scary. Yeah. That's the thing too about this NIL. Scary.
It is.
Moments are scary sometimes, but guess what? That just makes you stronger. It just makes you stronger. And no one's going to say anything negative, because most of the time people will worry about themselves personally, right? They're not necessarily thinking about what we're doing per se. So I'm psyched about this because no one else really is doing it yet. We have been the pioneers of the community ambassador space.
Yeah.
And trying to evolve a brand and bring a brand up. And we've gotten a lot of recognition on LinkedIn. I've had business owners liking our pages and thinking this is super cool, that we love it, reaching out to you, like building that connectivity. It's it's a big deal. And I'm psyched. Like I said, I can't wait to see where 2026 and 2027 takes us.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. So super grateful, Crystal. Let's talk about how people can learn more about Aroma Joe's, where they can go. I know some of maybe even locally the franchise owners are a great place to go. Ask who's doing it, and meet your baristas. Get to know them. Right? I mean, it's amazing what happens when you start talking to people.
Yeah, the biggest thing for if you want to be a community ambassador is to reach out to us, right? Yeah. Crystal at aromajoesdev.com, plus yourself, Greg, go on to pliablemarketing.com. That's how you kind of investigate us, right? Find out about us. The stores are kind of not necessarily in it until we involve them because of the day-to-day, right? It is so busy. Some of our stores have 4,000 or 5,000 customers a week flying through there. So connecting with us first. Yep. We build that connectivity and then we move forward, right, in the next space and connect a franchisee with potentially an ambassador or a whole state.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And it's those relationships too. I know we've seen it before where, somebody is a frequent, person at the drive-through and they're like, oh, I know exactly who that person is. You know what I mean? Like, because you're literally, building relationships and it's so important. So, in the spirit of relationships, Crystal, I honestly can't say enough about all our work together. We work so well together because we do both share that, it seems like endless energy, I guess is the best way to put it, because we both get so excited about things. We both want to see other people succeed. At the end of the day, I think that's what drives both of us, is that we want to have other people succeed. And if there's something we can do to help that, we usually try to make it happen. And again, I can't just express enough how grateful I am for this. And this literally changed my company from day one. And I get emotional about it, honestly, Crystal, because
I appreciate it, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, if I literally could have, and when Alyssa originally had said that to me, I thought about it and I said, okay, Aroma Joe's, I've heard of them, and then I started to ask more and more people, like, hey, would you want to work with Aroma Joe? Oh yeah, I would do anything. Blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, like, wait a second, this may have just been the best brand that ever walked through the door for Pliable, and all of a sudden, here is this opportunity. And then for it to be community ambassador was just a home run, because you and I we understand the value of community. We understand the value of relationships. So again, if anybody is interested in the community ambassador program from Aroma Joe's, Pliable and Aroma Joe's work together exclusively on this partnership. So you can go to pliablemarketing.com. You'll see a lot more information on there. Check out the athletes tab, drop that down, and you'll be able to learn a lot more information. There's ways to get representation. There's ways to apply to be a Pliable athlete. It really starts there, because then that's how we start the vetting process. Obviously, reach out on social media, because that's where everybody is. You can find Aroma Joe's at Aroma Joe's Coffee. A lot of the stores now have their own TikToks, which is fun.
Yeah, love that.
And then, of course, Pliable Marketing on Instagram at Pliable MKTG. Also on TikTok, for those of you who love the TikTok world, which is fastly evolving. So
I know.
So it's good stuff. But thanks again, Crystal, for coming on the podcast and doing all the wonderful things you do.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. This has been an episode of the Athlete Brand Advisor Podcast. We trust you have learned information here today that will be valuable. Please like and share, comment, and we will look forward to connecting with you. Thanks again for listening. I'm Greg Glynn. Glad you could tune in. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Athlete Brand Advisor Podcast. Be sure to check out the show notes from today's episode and catch up on recent episodes at pliablemarketing.com. Be sure to follow at Pliable MKTG on social media to follow athletes who have NIL representation and work with Pliable. Have an idea for our podcast? We encourage you to share topics and guest ideas by emailing our production staff at info@pliablemarketing.com. We love hearing from our loyal listeners, so jump in and be part of the podcast because, well, that's how we roll.